Open, an autobiography by Agassi. The end. I open my eyes and don't know where I am or who I am. Not all that unusual. I've spent half my life not knowing. Still, this feels different. This confusion is more frightening, more total. I look up. I'm lying on the floor beside the bed. I remember now. I moved from the bed to the floor in the middle of the night. I do that most nights. Better for my back. Too many hours on a soft mattress causes agony. I count to 3, then start the long, difficult process of standing. With a cough, a groan, I roll onto my side, then curl into the fetal position, then flip over onto my stomach. Now I wait and wait for the blood to start pumping. I'm a young man, relatively speaking, 36, but I wake up as if 96. After 3 decades of sprinting, stopping on a dime, jumping high and landing hard, my body no longer feels like my body, especially in the morning. Consequently, my mind doesn't feel like my mind. Upon opening my eyes, I'm a stranger to myself. And while, again, this isn't new, in the mornings it's more pronounced. I run quickly through the basic facts. My name is Agassi. My wife's name is Steffi Groff. We have 2 children, a son and a daughter, 5 and 3. We live in Las Vegas, Nevada, but currently reside in a suite at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York City because I'm playing in the 2006 U.S. Open, my last U.S. Open. In fact, my last tournament ever. I play tennis for a living, even though I hate tennis. Hate it with a dark and secret passion, and always have. As this last piece of identity falls into place, I slide to my knees, and in a whisper I say, "Please let this be over." Then, I'm not ready for it to be over. Now from the next room, I hear Stephanie and the children. They're eating breakfast, talking, laughing. My overwhelming desire to see and touch them, plus a powerful craving for caffeine, gives me the inspiration I need to hoist myself up, to go vertical. Hate brings me to my knees. Love gets me on my feet. I glance at the bedside clock, 7:30. Stephanie let me sleep in. The fatigue of these final days has been severe. Apart from the physical strain, there is the exhausting torrent of emotions set loose by my pending retirement. Now, rising from the center of the fatigue, comes the first wave of pain. I grab my back. It grabs me. I feel as if someone snuck in during the night and attached one of those anti-theft steering wheel locks to my spine. How can I play the U.S. Open with the club on my spine? Will the last match of my career be a forfeit? I was born with spondylolisthesis, meaning a bottom vertebra that parted from the other vertebrae, stuck out on its own, rebelled. It's the main reason for my pigeon-toed walk. With this one vertebra out of sync, there's less room for the nerves inside the column of my spine, and with the slightest movement, the nerves feel that much more crowded. Throw in 2 herniated discs and a bone that won't stop growing in a futile effort to protect the damaged area, and those nerves start to feel downright claustrophobic. When the nerves protest their cramped quarters, when they send out distress signals, a pain runs up and down my leg that makes me suck in my breath and speak in tongues. At such moments, the only relief is to lie down and wait. Sometimes, however, the moment arrives in the middle of a match. Then the only remedy is to alter my game, swing differently, run differently, do everything differently. That's when my muscles spasm. Everyone avoids change. Muscles can't abide it. Told to change, my muscles join the spinal rebellion, and soon my whole body is at war with itself. Gil, my trainer, my friend, my surrogate father, explains it this way. Your body is saying it doesn't want to do this anymore. My body has been saying that for a long time, I tell Gil. Almost as long as I've been saying it. Since January, however, my body has been shouting it. My body doesn't want to retire. My body has already retired. My body has moved to Florida and bought a condo and white Sansa belts. So I've been negotiating with my body, asking it to come out of retirement for a few hours here, a few hours there. Much of this negotiation revolves around a cortisone shot that temporarily dulls the pain. Before the shot works, however, it causes its own torments. I got one yesterday so I could play tonight. It was the third shot this year, the 13th of my career, and by far the most alarming. The doctor, not my regular doctor, told me brusquely to assume the position. I stretched out on his table, face down, and his nurse yanked down my shorts. The doctor said he needed to get his 7-inch needle as close to the inflamed nerves as possible, but he couldn't enter directly because my herniated discs and bone spur were blocking the path. His attempts to circumvent them, to break the club, sent me through the roof. First he inserted the needle, then he positioned a big machine over my back to see how close the needle was to the nerves. He needed to get that needle almost flush against the nerves, he said, without actually touching. If it were to touch the nerves, even if it were to only nick the nerves, the pain would ruin me for the tournament. It could also be life-changing. In and out and around, he maneuvered the needle until my eyes filled with water. Finally, he hit the spot. Bullseye, he said. In went the cortisone. The burning sensation made me bite my lip. Then came the pressure. I felt infused, embalmed. The tiny space in my spine where the nerves are housed began to feel vacuum-packed. The pressure built until I thought my back would burst. Pressure is how you know something's working, the doctor said. Words to live by, Doc. Soon the pain felt wonderful, almost sweet, because it was the kind that you can tell precedes relief. But maybe all pain is like that. My family is growing louder. I limp out to the living room of our suite. My son, Jaden, and my daughter, Jazz, see me and scream, "Daddy! Daddy!" They jump up and down and want to leap on me. I stop and brace myself, stand before them like a mime imitating a tree in winter. They stop just before leaping because they know Daddy is delicate these days. Daddy will shatter if they touch him too hard. I pat their faces and kiss their cheeks and join them at the breakfast table. Jaden asks if today is the day. Yes. You're playing? Yes. And then after today, are you retire? A new word he and his younger sister have learned, retired. When they say it, they always leave off the last letter. For them, it's retire, forever ongoing, permanently in the present tense. Maybe they know something I don't. Not if I win, son. If I win tonight, I keep playing. But if you lose, we can have a dog? To the children, retire equals puppy. Stephanie and I have promised them that when I stop training, when we stop traveling the world, we can buy a puppy. Maybe we'll name him Cortisone. Yes, buddy, when I lose, we will buy a dog. He smiles. He hopes Daddy loses. Hopes Daddy experiences the disappointment that surpasses all others. He doesn't understand, and how will I ever be able to explain it to him? The pain of losing, the pain of playing. It's taken me nearly 30 years to understand it myself, to solve the calculus of my own psyche. I asked Jaden if he's doing okay. Going to see the bones. I look at Stephanie. She reminds me she's taking them to the Museum of Natural History. Dinosaurs. I think of my twisted vertebrae. I think of my skeleton on display at the museum with all the other dinosaurs. Tyrannosaurus rex. Jazz interrupts my thoughts. She hands me her muffin. She needs me to pick out the blueberries before she eats it. Our morning ritual. Each blueberry must be surgically removed, which requires precision, concentration. Stick the knife in, move it around, get it right up to the blueberry without touching. I focus on her muffin, and it's a relief to think about something other than tennis. But as I hand her the muffin, I can't pretend that it doesn't feel like a tennis ball, which makes the muscles in my back twitch with anticipation. The time is drawing near. After breakfast, after Stephanie and the kids have kissed me goodbye and run off to the museum, I sit quietly at the table, looking around the suite. It's like every hotel suite I've ever had, only more so. Clean, chic, comfortable. It's the Four Seasons, so it's lovely, but it's still just another version of what I call not home. the non-place we exist as athletes. I close my eyes, try to think about tonight, but my mind drifts backward. My mind these days has a natural backspin. Given half a chance, it wants to return to the beginning, because I'm so close to the end. But I can't let it, not yet. I can't afford to dwell too long on the past. I get up and walk around the table, test my balance. When I feel fairly steady, I walk gingerly to the shower. Under the hot water, I groan and scream. I bend slowly, touch my quads, start to come alive. My muscles loosen. My skin sags. My pores fly open. Warm blood goes sluicing through my veins. I feel something begin to stir. Life. Hope. The last drops of youth. Still, I make no sudden movements. I don't want to do anything to startle my spine. I let my spine sleep in. Standing at the bathroom mirror, toweling off, I stare at my face. Red eyes, gray stubble, a face totally different from the one with which I started, but also different from the one I saw last year in this same mirror. Whoever I might be, I'm not the boy who started this odyssey, and I'm not even the man who announced 3 months ago that the odyssey was coming to an end. I'm like a tennis racket on which I've replaced the grip 4 times and the string 7 times. Is it accurate to call it the same racket? Somewhere in those eyes, however, I can still vaguely see the boy who didn't want to play tennis in the first place, the boy who wanted to quit, the boy who did quit many times. I see that golden-haired boy who hated tennis, and I wonder how he would view this bald man who still hates tennis and yet still plays. Would he be shocked, amused, proud? The question makes me weary, lethargic, and it's only noon. Please let this be over. I'm not ready for it to be over. The finish line at the end of a career is no different from the finish line at the end of a match. The objective is to get within reach of that finish line, because then it gives off a magnetic force. When you're close, you can feel that force pulling you, and you can use that force to get across. But just before you come within range, or just after, you feel another force, equally strong, pushing you away. It's inexplicable, mystical, these twin forces, these contradictory energies, but they both exist. I know because I've spent much of my life seeking the one, fighting the other, and sometimes I've been stuck, suspended, bounced like a tennis ball between the two. Tonight, I remind myself that it will require iron discipline to cope with those forces and whatever else comes my way. Back pain, bad shots, foul weather, self-loathing. It's a form of worry, this reminder, but also a meditation. One thing I've learned in 29 years of playing tennis, life will throw everything but the kitchen sink in your path, and then it will throw the kitchen sink. It's your job to avoid the obstacles. If you let them stop you or distract you, you're not doing your job, and failing to do your job will cause regrets that paralyze you more than a bad back. I lie on the bed with a glass of water and read. When my eyes get tired, I click on the TV. Tonight, round 2 of the U.S. Open. Will this be Andre Agassi's farewell? My face flashes on the screen, a different face than the one in the mirror. My game face. I study this reflection of me in the distorted mirror that is TV, and my anxiety rises another click or two. Was that the final commercial? The final time CBS will ever promote one of my matches? I can't escape the feeling that I'm about to die. It's no accident, I think, that tennis uses the language of life. Advantage, service, fault, break, love. The basic elements of tennis are those of everyday existence, because every match is a life in miniature. Even the structure of tennis, the way the pieces fit inside one another, like Russian nesting dolls, mimics the structure of our days. Points become games, become sets, become tournaments, and it's all so tightly connected that any point can become the turning point. It reminds me of the way seconds become minutes, become hours, and any hour can be our finest or darkest. It's our choice. But if tennis is life, then what follows tennis must be the unknowable void. The thought makes me cold. Stephanie bursts through the door with the kids. They flop on the bed, and my son asks how I'm feeling. Fine. How are the bones? Fun. Stephanie gives them sandwiches and juice and hustles them out the door again. They have a play date, she says. Don't we all? Now I can take a nap. At 36, the only way I can play a late match, which could go past midnight, is if I get a nap beforehand. Also, now that I know roughly who I am, I want to close my eyes and hide from it. When I open my eyes, 1 hour has passed. I say aloud, it's time. No more hiding. I step into the shower again, but this shower is different from the morning shower. The afternoon shower is always longer, 22 minutes, give or take, and it's not for waking up or getting clean. The afternoon shower is for encouraging myself, coaching myself. Tennis is the sport in which you talk to yourself. No athletes talk to themselves like tennis players. Pitchers, golfers, goalkeepers, they mutter to themselves, of course, but tennis players talk to themselves and answer. In the heat of a match, tennis players look like lunatics in a public square, ranting and swearing and conducting Lincoln Douglas debates with their alter egos. Why? Because tennis is so damned lonely. Only boxers can understand the loneliness of tennis players, and yet boxers have their corner men and managers. Even a boxer's opponent provides a kind of companionship, someone he can grapple with and grunt at. In tennis, you stand face to face with the enemy, trade blows with him, but never touch him or talk to him or anyone else. The rules forbid a tennis player from even talking to his coach while on the court. People sometimes mention the track and field runner as a comparably lonely figure, but I have to laugh. At least the runner can feel and smell his opponents. They're inches away. In tennis, you're on an island. Of all the games men and women play, tennis is the closest to solitary confinement, which inevitably leads to self-talk. And for me, the self-talk starts here in the afternoon shower. This is when I begin to say things to myself, crazy things, over and over, until I believe them. For instance, that a quasi-cripple can compete in the U.S. Open, that a 36-year-old man can beat an opponent just entering his prime. I've won 869 matches in my career, 5th on the all-time list, and many were won during the afternoon shower. With the water roaring in my ears, a sound not unlike 20,000 fans, I recall particular wins. Not wins the fans would remember, but wins that still wake me at night. Scolari in Paris, Blake in New York, Pete in Australia. Then I recall a few losses. I shake my head at the disappointments. I tell myself that tonight will be an exam for which I've been studying 29 years. Whatever happens tonight, I've already been through it at least once before. If it's a physical test, if it's mental, it's nothing new. Please let this be over. I don't want it to be over. I start to cry. I lean against the wall of the shower and let go. I give myself strict orders as I shave. Take it one point at a time. Make him work for everything. No matter what happens, hold your head up. And for God's sake, enjoy it. Or at least try to enjoy moments of it, even the pain, even the losing, if that's what's in store. I think about my opponent, Marcos Baghdatis, and wonder what he's doing at this moment. He's new to the tour, but not your typical newcomer. He's ranked number 8 in the world. He's a big, strong Greek kid from Cyprus in the middle of a superb year. He's reached the final of the Australian Open and the semis of Wimbledon. I know him fairly well. During last year's U.S. Open, we played a practice set. Typically, I don't play practice sets with other players during a Grand Slam, but Baghdatis asked with disarming grace. A TV show from Cyprus was doing a piece about him, and he asked if it would be all right if they filmed us practicing. Sure, I said. Why not? I won the practice set 6-2, and afterward he was all smiles. I saw that he's the type who smiles when he's happy or nervous, and you can't tell which. It reminded me of someone, but I couldn't think who. I told Baghdatis that he played a little like me, and he said it was no accident. He grew up with pictures of me on his bedroom wall, patterned his game after mine. In other words, tonight I'll be playing my mirror image. He'll play from the back of the court, take the ball early, swing the fences just like me. It's going to be toe-to-toe tennis, each of us trying to impose our will, each of us looking for chances to smoke a backhand up the line. He doesn't have an overwhelming serve, nor do I, which means long points, long rallies, lots of energy and time expended. I brace myself for flurries, combinations, a tennis of attrition, the most brutal form of the sport. Of course, the one stark difference between me and Bagdadas is physical. We have different bodies. He has my former body. He's nimble, fast, spry. I'll have to beat the younger version of myself if I am to keep the older version going. I close my eyes and say, "Control what you can control." I say it again, aloud. Saying it aloud makes me feel brave. I shut off the water and stand, shivering. How much easier it is to be brave under a stream of piping hot water. I remind myself, however, that hot water bravery isn't true bravery. What you feel doesn't matter in the end. It's what you do that makes you brave. Stephanie and the kids return. Time to make the gill water. I sweat a lot, more than most players, so I need to begin hydrating many hours before a match. I down quarts of a magic elixir invented for me by Gil, my trainer for the last 17 years. Gill water is a blend of carbs, electrolytes, salt, vitamins, and a few other ingredients Gil keeps a closely guarded secret. He's been tinkering with his recipe for 2 decades. He usually starts force-feeding me gill water the night before a match and keeps forcing me right up to match time. Then I sip it as the match wears on. At different stages I sip different versions, each a different color. Pink for energy, red for recovery, brown for replenishment. The kids love helping me mix gill water. They fight over who gets to scoop out the powders, who gets to hold the funnel, who gets to pour it into all the plastic water bottles. No one but me, however, can pack the bottles into my bag, along with my clothes and towels and books and shades and wristbands. My rackets, as always, go in later. No one but me touches my tennis bag, and when it's finally packed, it stands by the door like an assassin's kit, a sign that the day has lurched that much closer to the witching hour. At 5, Jill rings from the lobby. He says, "You ready? Time to throw down. It's on, Andre. It's on." Nowadays, everyone says it's on, but Gil has been saying it for years, and no one says it the way he does. When Gil says it's on, I feel my booster rockets fire, my adrenaline glands pump like geysers. I feel as if I can lift a car over my head. Stephanie gathers the children at the door and tells them it's time for Daddy to leave. "What do you say, guys?" Jaden shouts, "Kick butt, Daddy!" "Kick butt," Jazz says, copying her brother. Stephanie kisses me and says nothing, because there's nothing to say. In the town car, Gil sits in the front seat, dressed sharp. Black shirt, black tie, black jacket. He dresses for every match as if it's a blind date or a mob hit. Now and then he checks his big long black hair in the side mirror or rear view. I sit in the back seat with Darren, my coach, an Aussie who always rocks a Hollywood tan and the smile of a guy who just hit the Powerball. For a few minutes, no one says anything. Then Gil speaks the lyrics of one of our favorites, an old Roy Clark ballad, and his deep basso fills the car. "Just going through the motions and pretending we have something left to gain." He looks at me, waits. I say, "We can't build a fire in the rain." He laughs. I laugh. For a second, I forget my nervous butterflies. Butterflies are funny. Some days they make you run to the toilet. Other days they make you horny. Other days they make you laugh and long for the fight. Deciding which type of butterflies you've got going, monarchs or moths, is the first order of business when you're driving to the arena. Figuring out your butterflies, deciphering what they say about the status of your mind and body, is the first step to making them work for you. One of the 1,000 lessons I've learned from Gil. I asked Darren for his thoughts on Baghdadis. How aggressive do I want to be tonight? Tennis is about degrees of aggression. You want to be aggressive enough to control a point, not so aggressive that you sacrifice control and expose yourself to unnecessary risk. My questions about Baghdadis are these. How will he try to hurt me? If I hit a backhand cross-court to start a point, some players will be patient. Others will make a statement right away, crush the ball up the line, or come hard to the net. Since I've never played Baghdadis outside of our one practice set, I want to know how he'll react to conservative play. Will he step up and jack that routine cross-court, or lie back, bide his time? Darren says, "Mate, I think if you get too conservative on your rally shot, you can expect the guy to move around it and hurt you with his forehand." I see. As far as his backhand goes, he can't hit it easily up the line. He won't be quick to pull that trigger. So if you find he is hitting backhands up the line, that definitely means you're not putting enough steam on your rally shot. Does he move well? Yes, he's a good mover, but he's not comfortable being on the defensive. He's a better mover offensively than defensively. We pull up to the stadium. Fans are milling about. I sign a few autographs, then duck through a small door. I walk down a long tunnel and into the locker room. Gil goes off to consult with security. He always wants them to know exactly when we're going out on the court to practice and when we're coming back. Darren and I drop our bags and walk straight to the training room. I lie on a table and beg the first trainer who comes near me to knead my back. Darren ducks out and returns 5 minutes later, carrying 8 freshly strung rackets. He sets them atop my bag. He knows I want to place them in the bag myself. I obsess about my bag. I keep it meticulously organized, and I make no apologies for this anal retentiveness. The bag is my briefcase, suitcase, toolbox, lunchbox, and pallet. I need it just right, always. The bag is what I carry onto the court and what I carry off, 2 moments when all my senses are extra acute, so I can feel every ounce of its weight. If somebody were to slip a pair of Argyle socks into my tennis bag, I'd feel it. The tennis bag is a lot like your heart. You have to know what's in it at all times. It's also a question of functionality. I need my 8 rackets stacked chronologically in the tennis bag, the most recently strung racket on the bottom and the least recently strung on the top, because the longer a racket sits, the more tension it loses. I always start a match with the racket strung least recently because I know that's the racket with the loosest tension. My racket stringer is old school, old world, a Czech artiste named Roman. He's the best, and he needs to be. A string job can mean the difference in a match, and a match can mean the difference in a career, and a career can mean the difference in countless lives. When I pull a fresh racket from my bag and try to serve out a match, the string tension can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because I'm playing for my family, my charitable foundation, my school, every string is like a wire in an airplane engine. Given all that lies beyond my control, I obsess about the few things I can control, and racket tension is one such thing. So vital is Roman to my game that I take him on the road. He's officially a resident of New York, but when I'm playing in Wimbledon, he lives in London, and when I'm playing in the French Open, he's a Parisian. Occasionally, feeling lost and lonely in some foreign city, I'll sit with Roman and watch him string a few rackets. It's not that I don't trust him, just the opposite. I'm calmed, grounded, inspired by watching a craftsman. It reminds me of the singular importance in this world of a job done well. The raw rackets come to Roman in a great big box from the factory, and they're always a mess. To the naked eye, they look identical. To Roman, they're as different as faces in a crowd. He spins them back and forth, furrows his brow, then makes his calculations. At last he begins. He starts by removing the factory grip and putting on my grip, the custom grip I've had since I was 14. My grip is as personal as my thumbprint. A byproduct not just of my hand shape and finger length, but the size of my calluses and the force of my squeeze. Roman has a mold of my grip, which he applies to the racket. Then he wraps the mold with calf skin, which he pounds thinner and thinner until it's the width he wants. A millimeter difference near the end of a 4-hour match can feel as irritating and distracting as a pebble in my shoe. With the grip just so, Roman laces in the synthetic strings. He tightens them, loosens them, tightens them, tunes them as carefully as strings on a viola. Then he stencils them and vigorously waves them through the air to let the stenciling dry. Some stringers stencil the rackets right before match time, which I find wildly inconsiderate and unprofessional. The stencil rubs off on the balls, and there's nothing worse than playing a guy who gets red and black paint on the balls. I like order and cleanliness, and that means no stencil specked balls. Disorder is distraction, and every distraction on the court is a potential turning point. Darren opens 2 cans of balls and shoves 2 balls in his pocket. I take a gulp of gill water, then last leak before warm-ups. James, the security guard, leads us into the tunnel. As usual, he's squeezed into a tight yellow security shirt, and he gives me a wink as if to say, "We security guards are supposed to be impartial, but I'm rooting for you." James has been at the U.S. Open almost as long as I have. He's led me down this tunnel before and after glorious wins and excruciating losses. Large, kind, with tough guy scars that he wears with pride, James is a bit like Gil. It's almost as though he takes over for Gil during those few hours on the court when I'm outside Gil's sphere of influence. There are people you count on seeing at the U.S. Open, office staffers, ball boys, trainers, and their presence is always reassuring. They help you remember where and who you are. James is at the top of that list. He's one of the first people I look for when I walk into Arthur Ashe Stadium. Seeing him, I know I'm back in New York, and I'm in good hands. Ever since 1993, when a spectator in Hamburg rushed onto the court and stabbed Monica Seles during a match, the U.S. Open has positioned one security guard behind every player's chair during all breaks and changeovers. James always makes sure to be the one behind my chair. His inability to remain impartial is endlessly charming. During a grueling match, I'll often catch James looking concerned, and I'll whisper, "Don't worry, James. I've got this chump today." It always makes him chuckle. Now, walking me out to the practice courts, he's not chuckling. He looks sad. He knows that this could be our last night together. Still, he doesn't deviate from our pre-match ritual. He says the same thing he always says. "Let me help you with that bag." "No, James, no one carries my bag but me." I've told James that when I was 7 years old, I saw Jimmy Connors make someone carry his bag as though he were Julius Caesar. I vowed then and there that I would always carry my own. "Okay," James says, smiling. I know. I remember. Just wanted to help." Then I say, "James, you got my back today?" "I got your back, baby. I got it. Don't worry about nothing. Just take care of business." We emerge into a dusky September night, the sky a smear of violet and orange and smog. I walk to the stands, shake hands with a few fans, sign a few more autographs before practicing. There were 4 practice courts, and James knows I want the one farthest from the crowd, so Darren and I can have a little privacy as we hit and talk strategy. I groan as I guide the first backhand up the line to Darren's forehand. "Don't hit that shot tonight," he says. "Bagdatis will hurt you with that." "Really?" "Trust me, mate." "And you say he moves well?" "Yes, quite well." We hit for 28 minutes. I don't know why I notice these details: the length of an afternoon shower, the duration of a practice session, the color of James's shirt. I don't want to notice, but I do, all the time, and then I remember forever. My memory isn't like my tennis bag. I have no say over its contents. Everything goes in, and nothing ever seems to come out. My back feels okay, normal stiffness, but the excruciating pain is gone. The cortisone is working. I feel good. though, of course, the definition of good has evolved in recent years. Still, I feel better than I did when I opened my eyes this morning, when I thought of forfeiting. I might be able to do this. Of course, tomorrow there will be severe physical consequences, but I can't dwell on tomorrow any more than I can dwell on yesterday. Back inside the locker room, I pull off my sweaty clothes and jump in the shower. My third shower of the day is short, utilitarian. No time for coaching or crying. I slip on dry shorts, a t-shirt, put my feet up in the training room. I drink more gill water, as much as I can hold, because it's 6:30 and the match is nearly 1 hour off. There's a TV above the training table, and I try to watch the news. I can't. I walk down to the offices and look in on the secretaries and officials of the U.S. Open. They're busy. They don't have time to talk. I step through a small door. Stephanie and the children have arrived. They're in a little playground outside the locker room. Jaden and Jazz are taking turns on the plastic slide. Stephanie is grateful, I can tell, to have the children here for distraction. She's more keyed up than I. She looks almost irritated. Her frown says, "This thing should have started already. Come on." I love the way my wife spoils for a fight. I talk to her and the children for a few minutes, but I can't hear a word they're saying. My mind is far away. Stephanie sees. She feels. You don't win 22 Grand Slams without a highly developed intuition. Besides, she was the same way before her matches. She sends me back into the locker room. Go, we'll be here. Do what you need to do. She won't watch the match from ground level. It's too close for her. She'll stay in a skybox with the children, alternately pacing, praying, and covering her eyes. Pear, one of the senior trainers, walks in. I can tell which of his trays is for me, the one with the 2 giant foam donuts and 24 pre-cut strips of tape. I lie on one of the 6 training tables, and Pear sits at my feet. A messy business, getting these dogs ready for war, so he puts a trash can under them. I like that Pear is tidy, meticulous, the Roman of calluses. First, he takes a long Q-tip and applies an inky goo that makes my skin sticky, my instep purple. There's no washing off that ink. My instep hasn't been ink-free since Reagan was president. Now Pear sprays on skin toughener. He lets that dry, then taps a foam donut into each callus. Next come the strips of tape, which are like rice paper. They instantly become part of my skin. He wraps each big toe until it's the size of a spark plug. Finally, he tapes the bottoms of my feet. He knows my pressure points, where I land, where I need extra layers of padding. I thank him, put on my match shirt, socks, shoes unlaced. Now as everything begins to slow down, the volume goes up. Moments ago, the stadium was quiet. Now it's beyond loud. The air is filled with a buzzing, a humming, the sound of fans rushing to their seats, hurrying to get settled because they don't want to miss a minute of what's coming. I stand, shake out my legs. I won't sit again. I try a jog down the hall. Not bad. The back is holding. All systems go. Across the locker room I see Baghdadis. He's suited up, fussing with his hair in front of a mirror. He's flicking it, combing it, pulling it back. Wow, he has a lot of hair. Now he's positioning his headband, a white Cochise wrap. He gets it perfect, then gives one last tug on his ponytail. A decidedly more glamorous pre-match ritual than cushioning your toe calluses. I remember my hair issues early in my career. For a moment, I feel jealous. I miss my hair. Then I run a hand over my bare scalp and feel grateful that, with all the things I'm worried about right now, hair isn't one of them. Baghdadis begins stretching, bending at the waist. He stands on one leg and pulls one knee to his chest. Nothing is quite so unsettling as watching your opponent do Pilates, yoga, and Tai Chi when you can't so much as curtsy. He now maneuvers his hips in ways I haven't dared since I was 7. And yet he's doing too much. He's antsy. I can almost hear his central nervous system, a sound like the buzz of the stadium. I watch the interaction between him and his coaches, and they're antsy too. Their faces, their body language, their coloring, everything tells me they know they're in for a street fight, and they're not sure they want it. I always like my opponent and his team to show nervous energy, a good omen, but also a sign of respect. Baghdada sees me and smiles. I remember that he smiles when he's happy or nervous, and you can never tell which. Again, it reminds me of someone, and I can't think who. I raise a hand. Good luck. He raises a hand. We who are about to die. I duck into the tunnel for one last word with Gil, who's staked out a corner where he can be alone but still keep an eye on everything. He puts his arms around me, tells me he loves me, he's proud of me. I find Stephanie and give her one last kiss. She's bobbing, weaving, stomping her feet. She'd give anything to slip on a skirt, grab a racket, and join me out there. My pugnacious bride. She tries a smile, but it ends up a wince. I see in her face everything she wants to say, but will not let herself say. I hear every word she refuses to utter. Enjoy, savor, take it all in. Notice each fleeting detail, because this could be it, and even though you hate tennis, you might just miss it after tonight. This is what she wants to say, but instead she kisses me and says what she always says before I go out there, the thing I've come to count on like air and sleep and gill water. Go kick some butt. An official of the U.S. Open, wearing a suit and carrying a walkie-talkie as long as my forearm, approaches. He seems to be in charge of network coverage and on-court security. He seems to be in charge of everything, including arrivals and departures at LaGuardia. 5 minutes, he says. I turn to someone and ask, what time is it? Go time, they say. No, I mean, what time? Is it 7:30? 7:20? I don't know, and it suddenly feels important. But there are no clocks. Darren and I turn to each other. His Adam's apple goes up and down. Mate, he says, your homework is done. You're ready. I nod. He holds out his fist for a bump. Just one bump, because that's what we did before my first round win earlier this week. We're both superstitious, so however we start a tournament, that's how we finish. I stare at Darren's fist, give it one more decisive bump, but don't dare lift my gaze and make eye contact. I know Darren is tearing up, and I know what that sight will do to me. Last things, I lace up my shoes. I tape my wrist. I always tape my own wrist, ever since my injury in 1993. I tie my shoes. Please let this be over. I'm not ready for it to be over. Mr. Agassi, it's time. I'm ready. I walk into the tunnel, 3 steps behind Baghdadis, James again leading the way. We stop, wait for a signal. The buzzing sound all around us becomes louder. The tunnel is meat locker cold. I know this tunnel as well as I know the front foyer of my house, and yet tonight it feels about 50 degrees colder than usual and a football field longer. I look to the side. There along the walls are the familiar photos of former champions, Navratilova, Lindell, McEnroe, Stephanie, me. The portraits are 3 feet tall and spaced evenly, too evenly. They're like trees in a new suburban development. I tell myself, stop noticing such things. Time to narrow your mind, the way the tunnel narrows your vision. The head of security yells, "Okay, everyone, it's showtime!" We walk. By careful prearrangement, Baghdada stays 3 paces ahead as we move toward the light. Suddenly, a second light, a blinding ethereal light, is in our faces. A TV camera. A reporter asks Baghdadis how he feels. He says something I can't hear. Now the camera is closer to my face, and the reporter is asking the same question. "Could be your last match ever," the reporter says. "How does that make you feel?" I answer, no idea what I'm saying. But after years of practice, I have a sense that I'm saying what he wants me to say, what I'm expected to say. Then I resume walking on legs that don't feel like my own. The temperature rises dramatically as we near the door to the court. The buzzing is now deafening. Bagdatis bursts through first. He knows how much attention my retirement has been getting. He reads the papers. He expects to play the villain tonight. He thinks he's prepared. I let him go, let him hear the buzzing turn to cheers. I let him think the crowd is cheering for both of us. Then I walk out. Now the cheers triple. Bagdatis turns and realizes the first cheer was for him, but this cheer is mine, all mine, which forces him to revise his expectations and reconsider what's in store. Without hitting a single ball, I've caused a major swing in his sense of well-being. A trick of the trade, an old-timer's trick. The crowd gets louder as we find our way to our chairs. It's louder than I thought it would be, louder than I've ever heard it in New York. I keep my eyes lowered, let the noise wash over me. They love this moment. They love tennis. I wonder how they would feel if they knew my secret. I stare at the court. Always the most abnormal part of my life. The court is now the only space of normalcy in all this turmoil. The court, which I've felt so lonely and exposed, is where I now hope to find refuge from this emotional moment. I cruise through the first set, winning 6-4. The ball obeys my every command. So does my back. My body feels warm, liquid. Cortisone and adrenaline working together. I win the second set, 6-4. I see the finish line. In the third set, I start to tire. I lose focus and control. Bagdatis, meanwhile, changes his game plan. He plays with desperation, a more powerful drug than cortisone. He starts to live in the now. He takes risks, and every risk pays off. The ball now disobeys me and conspires with him. It consistently bounces his way, which gives him confidence. I see the confidence shining from his eyes. His initial despair has turned to hope. No, anger. He doesn't admire me anymore. He hates me, and I hate him, and we're sneering and snarling and trying to wrest this thing from each other. The crowd feeds on our anger, shrieking, pounding their feet after every point. They're not clapping their hands as much as slapping them, and it all sounds primitive and tribal. He wins the third set, 6-3. I can do nothing to slow the Bagdatis onslaught. On the contrary, it's getting worse. He's 21, after all, just warming up. He's found his rhythm, his reason for being out there, his right to be here, whereas I've burned through my second wind, and I'm painfully aware of the clock inside my body. I don't want a fifth set. I can't handle a fifth set. My mortality now a factor, I start to take my own risks. I grab a 4-0 lead. I'm up 2 service breaks, and again the finish line is within sight, within reach. I feel the magnetic force pulling me. Then I feel the other force pushing. Bagdatis starts to play his best tennis of the year. He just remembered he's number 8 in the world. He pulls triggers on shots I didn't know he had in his repertoire. I've set a perilously high standard, but now he meets me there and exceeds me. He breaks me to get to 4-1. He holds serve to go 4-2. Here comes the biggest game of the match. If I win this game, I retake command of this set and reestablish in his mind and mine that he was fortunate to get 1 break back. If I lose, it's 4-3 and everything resets. Our night will begin again. Though we've bludgeoned each other for 10 rounds, if I lose this game, the fight will start over. We play at a furious pace. He goes for broke, holds nothing back, wins the game. He's going to take this set. He'll die before he loses this set. I know it, and he knows it, and everyone in the stadium knows it. 20 minutes ago, I was 2 games from winning and advancing. I'm now on the brink of collapse. He wins the set, 7-5. The fifth set begins. I'm serving, shaking, unsure my body can hold out for another 10 minutes, facing a kid who seems to be getting younger and stronger with every point. I tell myself, do not let it end this way. Of all ways, not this way, not giving up a 2-set lead. Bagdatis is talking to himself also, urging himself on. We ride a seesaw, a pendulum of high energy points. He makes a mistake. I give it back. He digs in. I dig in deeper. I'm serving at deuce, and we play a frantic point that ends when he hits a backhand drop shot that I wing into the net. I scream at myself. Advantage Bagdatis. The first time I've trailed him all night. Shake it off. Control what you can control, Andre. I win the next point. Deuce again. Elation. I give him the next point. Backhand into the net. Advantage Bagdatis. Depression. He wins the next point also, wins the game, breaks to go up 1-0. We walk to our chairs. I hear the crowd murmuring the first Agassi eulogies. I take a sip of gill water, feeling sorry for myself, feeling old. I look over at Bagdatis, wondering if he's feeling cocky. Instead, he's asking a trainer to rub his legs. He's asking for a medical timeout. His left quad is strained. He did that to me on a strained quad? The crowd uses the lull in the action to chant, "Let's go, Andre! Let's go, Andre!" They start a wave. They hold up signs with my name. Thanks for the memories, Andre. This is Andre's house. At last Bagdatis is ready to go. His serve. Having just broken me to take the lead in the match, he should have a full head of steam. But instead the lull seems to have disrupted his rhythm. I break him. We're back on serve. For the next 6 games we each hold. Then, knotted at 4-all with me serving, we play a game that seems to last a week, one of the most taxing and unreal games of my career. We grunt like animals, hit like gladiators, his forehand, my backhand. Everyone in the stadium stops breathing. Even the wind stops. Flags go limp against the poles. At 40-30, Bagdatis hits a swift forehand that sweeps me out of position. I barely get there in time to put my racket on it. I sling the ball over the net, screaming in agony, and he hits another scorcher to my backhand. I scurry in the opposite direction. Oh, my back! And reach the ball just in time. But I've wrenched my spine. The spinal column is locked up, and the nerves inside are keening. Goodbye, cortisone. Bagdatis hits a winner to the open court, and as I watch it sail by, I know that for the rest of the night my best effort is behind me. Whatever I do from this point on will be limited, compromised, borrowed against my future health and mobility. I look across the net to see if Bagdatis has noticed my pain, but he's hobbling. Hobbling? He's cramping. He falls to the ground, grabbing his legs. He's in more pain than I. I'll take a congenital back condition over sudden leg cramps any day. As he writhes on the ground, I realize all I have to do is stay upright, move this goddamn ball around a little while longer, and let his cramps do their work. I abandon all thought of subtlety and strategy. I say to myself, fundamentals. When you play someone wounded, it's about instinct and reaction. This will no longer be tennis, but a raw test of wills. No more jabs, no more feints, no more footwork. Nothing but roundhouses and haymakers. Back on his feet, Bagdatis too has stopped strategizing, stopped thinking, which makes him more dangerous. I can no longer predict what he'll do. He's crazed with pain, and no one can predict crazy, least of all on a tennis court. At deuce, I miss my first serve, and then give him a fat, juicy second serve, 70-something miles an hour, on which he unloads. Winner, advantage Bagdatis. Shit. I slump forward. The guy can't move, but he still crushes my serve. Now, yet again, I'm one slender, skittish point away from falling behind 4-5, which will set up Baghdatis to serve for the match. I close my eyes. I miss my first serve again. I hit another tentative second serve just to get the point going, and somehow he flubs an easy forehand. Deuce again. When your mind and body teeter on the verge of all-out collapse, one easy point like that feels like a pardon from the governor. And yet, I nearly squander my pardon. I miss my first serve. I make my second, and he returns it wide. Another gift. Advantage Agassi. I'm 1 point from a commanding 5-4 lead. Baghdatis grimaces, bears down. He won't yield. He wins the point. Deuce number 3. I promise myself that if I gain the advantage again, I won't lose it. By now, Baghdatis isn't merely cramping. He's a cripple. Awaiting my serve, he's fully bent over. I can't believe he's managing to stay on the court, let alone give me such a game. The guy has as much heart as he has hair. I feel for him, and at the same time tell myself to show him no mercy. I serve, he returns, and in my eagerness to hit to the open court, I hit far wide. Out. A choke. Clearly a choke. Advantage Baghdatis. He can't capitalize, however. On the next point, he hits a forehand several feet beyond the baseline. Deuce number 4. We have a long rally ending when I drive a deep shot to his forehand that he misplays. Advantage Agassi. Again. I promised myself I wouldn't waste this opportunity if it came around again, and here it is. But Baghdatis won't let me keep the promise. He quickly wins the next point. Deuce number 5. We play an absurdly long point. Every ball he hits, moaning, catches a piece of the line. Every ball I hit, screaming, somehow clears the net. Forehand, backhand, trick shot, diving shot. Then he hits a ball that nicks the baseline and takes a skittish sideways hop. I catch it on the rise and hit it 20 feet over him and the baseline. Advantage Baghdatis. Stick to basics, Andre. Run him. He's gimpy. Just make him move. I serve. He hits a vanilla return. I send him side to side until he yowls in pain and hits the ball into the net. Deuce number 6. While waiting for my next serve, Baghdatis is leaning on his racket, using it as an old man uses a walking stick. When I miss a first serve, however, he creeps forward, crab-like, and with his walking stick, he whacks my serve well beyond the reach of my forehand. Advantage Baghdatis. His 4th break point of this game. I hit a timid first serve, so paltry, so meek, my 7-year-old self would have been ashamed, and yet Baghdatis hits a defensive return. I hit to his forehand. He nets. Deuce number 7. I make another first serve. He gets a racket on it, but can't get it over the net. Advantage Agassi. I'm serving again for the game. I recall my twice broken promise. Here, one last chance. My back, however, is spasming. I can barely turn, let alone toss the ball and hit it 120 miles an hour. I miss my first serve, of course. I want to crush a second serve, be aggressive, but I can't. Physically, I cannot. I tell myself. 3/4 kick, put the ball above his shoulder, make him go side to side until he pukes blood. Just don't double fault. Easier said than done. The box is shrinking. I watch it gradually diminish in size. Can everyone else see what I'm seeing? The box is now the size of a playing card, so small that I'm not sure this ball would fit if I walked it over there and set it down. I toss the ball, hit an alligator-armed serve. Out, of course. Double fault. Deuce number 8. The crowd screams in disbelief. I manage to make a first serve. Baghdatis hits a workmanlike return. With 3/4 of his court wide open, I punch the ball deep to his backhand, 10 feet from him. He scampers toward it, waves his racket limply, can't get there. Advantage Agassi. On the 22nd point of the game, after a brief rally, Baghdatis finally whips a backhand into the net. Game, Agassi. During the changeover, I watch Baghdada sit. Big mistake, a young man's mistake. Never sit when cramping. Never tell your body that it's time to rest, then tell it, just kidding. Your body is like the federal government. It says, do anything you like, but when you get caught, don't lie to me. So he's not going to be able to serve. He's not going to be able to get out of that chair. And then he gets out and holds serve. What's keeping this man up? Oh, yes, youth. At 5-all, we play a stilted game. He makes a mistake, goes for the knockout. I counterpunch and win. I lead 6-5. His serve. He goes up 40-15. He's 1 point from pushing this match to a tiebreaker. I fight him to deuce. Then I win the next point, and now I have match point. A quick, vicious exchange. He hits a wild forehand, and as it leaves his strings, I know it's out. I know I've won this match, and at the same moment, I know that I wouldn't have had energy for one more swing. I meet Baghdadis at the net, take his hand, which is trembling, and hurry off the court. I don't dare stop. Must keep moving. I stagger through the tunnel, my bag slung over my left shoulder, feeling as if it's slung over my right shoulder because my whole body is twisted. By the time I reach the locker room, I'm unable to walk. I'm unable to stand. I'm sinking to the floor. I'm on the ground. Darren and Gil arrive, slip my bag off my shoulder, and lift me onto a table. Baghdadis' people deposit him on the table next to me. Darren, what's wrong with me? Lie down, mate. Stretch out. I can't. Where does it hurt? Is it a cramp? No, it's a constriction. I can't breathe. What? I can't breathe. Darren is helping someone put ice on my body, raising my arms, calling for doctors. He's begging me to reach, stretch. Just release, mate. Unclench. Your body is clenched. Just let go, mate. Let go. But I can't. And that's the whole problem, isn't it? I can't let go. A kaleidoscope of faces appears above me. Gil squeezing my arm, handing me a recovery drink. I love you, Gil. Stephanie kissing me on the forehead and smiling. Happy or nervous, I can't tell. Oh, yes, of course, that's where I've seen that smile before. A trainer telling me the doctors are on their way. He turns on the TV above the table. Something to do while you wait, he says. I try to watch. I hear moans to my left. I turn my head slowly and see Baghdadis on the next table. His team is working on him. They stretch his quad, his hamstring cramps. They stretch his hamstring, his quad cramps. He tries to lie flat, his groin cramps. He curls into a ball and begs them to leave him be. Everyone clears out of the locker room. It's just the two of us. I turn back to the TV. Moments later, something makes me turn back to Baghdadis. He's smiling at me. Happy or nervous? Maybe both. I smile back. I hear my name coming from the TV. I turn my head. Highlights from the match. The first 2 sets so misleadingly easy. The third, Baghdadis starting to believe. The fourth, a knife fight. The fifth, the never-ending 9th game. Some of the best tennis I've ever played. Some of the best tennis I've ever seen. The commentator calls it a classic. In my peripheral vision, I detect slight movement. I turn to see Baghdadis extending his hand. His face says, "We did that." I reach out, take his hand, and we remain this way, holding hands as the TV flickers with scenes of our savage battle. At last, I let my mind go where it's wanted to go. I can't stop it anymore. No longer asking politely. My mind is now forcibly spinning me into the past. And because my mind notes and records the slightest details, I see everything with bright, startling clarity. Every setback, victory, rivalry, tantrum, paycheck, girlfriend, betrayal, reporter, wife, child, outfit, fan letter, grudge match, and crying jag. As if a second TV above me were showing highlights from the last 29 years, it all flies past in a high-def whirl. People often ask what it's like, this tennis life, and I can never think how to describe it. But that word comes closest. More than anything else, it's a wrenching, thrilling, horrible, astonishing whirl. It even exerts a faint centrifugal force, which I've spent 3 decades fighting. Now, lying on my back under Arthur Ashe Stadium, holding hands with a vanquished opponent and waiting for someone to come help us, I do the only thing I can do. I stop fighting it. I just close my eyes and watch. 1. I'm 7 years old, talking to myself because I'm scared and because I'm the only person who listens to me. Under my breath, I whisper, "Just quit, Andre. Just give up. Put down your racket and walk off this court right now. Go into the house and get something good to eat. Play with Rita, Philly, or Tammy. Sit with Mom while she knits or does her jigsaw puzzle. Does that sound nice? Wouldn't that feel like heaven, Andre, to just quit? To never play tennis again?" But I can't. Not only would my father chase me around the house with my racket, but something in my gut, some deep unseen muscle, won't let me. I hate tennis, hate it with all my heart, and still I keep playing, keep hitting all morning and all afternoon because I have no choice. No matter how much I want to stop, I don't. I keep begging myself to stop, and I keep playing. And this gap, this contradiction between what I want to do and what I actually do, feels like the core of my life. At the moment, my hatred for tennis is focused on the Dragon, a ball machine modified by my fire-belching father. Midnight black, set on big rubber wheels, the word Prince painted in white block letters along its base. The Dragon looks at first glance like the ball machine at every country club in America, but it's actually a living, breathing creature straight out of my comic books. The Dragon has a brain, a will, a black heart, and a horrifying voice. Sucking another ball into its belly, the Dragon makes a series of sickening sounds. As pressure builds inside its throat, it groans. As the ball rises slowly to its mouth, it shrieks. For a moment, the Dragon sounds almost silly, like the fudge machine swallowing Augustus Gloop and Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. But when the Dragon takes dead aim at me and fires a ball 110 miles an hour, the sound it makes is a blood-curdling roar. I flinch every time. My father has deliberately made the Dragon fearsome. He's given it an extra long neck of aluminum tubing and a narrow aluminum head, which recoils like a whip every time the Dragon fires. He's also set the Dragon on a base several feet high and moved it flush against the net so the Dragon towers above me. At 7 years old, I'm small for my age. I look smaller because of my constant wince and the bi-monthly bowl haircuts my father gives me. But when standing before the Dragon, I look tiny, feel tiny, helpless. My father wants the Dragon to tower over me, not simply because it commands my attention and respect. He wants the balls that shoot from the Dragon's mouth to land at my feet as if dropped from an airplane. The trajectory makes the balls nearly impossible to return in a conventional way. I need to hit every ball on the rise, or else it will bounce over my head. But even that's not enough for my father. "Hit earlier," he yells. "Hit earlier." My father yells everything twice, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 10. "Harder," he says, "harder." But what's the use? No matter how hard I hit a ball, no matter how early, the ball comes back. Every ball I send across the net joins the thousands that already cover the court. Not hundreds, thousands. They roll toward me in perpetual waves. I have no room to turn, no step to pivot. I can't move without stepping on a ball, and yet I can't step on a ball because my father won't bear it. Step on one of my father's tennis balls and he'll howl as if you stepped on his eyeball. Every third ball fired by the dragon hits a ball already on the ground, causing a crazy sideways hop. I adjust at the last second, catch the ball early, and hit it smartly across the net. I know this is no ordinary reflex. I know there are few children in the world who could have seen that ball, let alone hit it. But I take no pride in my reflexes, and I get no credit. It's what I'm supposed to do. Every hit is expected, every miss a crisis. My father says that if I hit 2,500 balls each day, I'll hit 17,500 balls each week, and at the end of 1 year, I'll have hit nearly 1 million balls. He believes in math. Numbers, he says, don't lie. A child who hits 1 million balls each year will be unbeatable. Hit earlier, my father yells. Damn it, Andre, hit earlier. Crowd the ball, crowd the ball. Now he's crowding me. He's yelling directly into my ear. It's not enough to hit everything the dragon fires at me. My father wants me to hit it harder and faster than the dragon. He wants me to beat the dragon. The thought makes me panicky. I tell myself, you can't beat the dragon. How can you beat something that never stops? Come to think of it, the dragon is a lot like my father, except my father is worse. At least the dragon stands before me where I can see it. My father stays behind me. I rarely see him, only hear him, day and night, yelling in my ear. More topspin. Hit harder. Hit harder. Not in the net. Damn it, Andre. Never in the net. Nothing sends my father into a rage like hitting a ball into the net. He dislikes when I hit the ball wide. He yells when I hit a ball long. But when I muff the ball into the net, he foams at the mouth. Errors are one thing. The net is something else. Over and over, my father says, the net is your biggest enemy. My father has raised the enemy 6 inches higher than regulation to make it that much harder to avoid. If I can clear my father's high net, he figures I'll have no trouble clearing the net one day at Wimbledon. Never mind that I don't want to play Wimbledon. What I want isn't relevant. Sometimes I watch Wimbledon on TV with my father, and we both root for Bjorn Borg because he's the best. He never stops. He's the nearest thing to the dragon. But I don't want to be Borg. I admire his talent, his energy, his style, his ability to lose himself in the game. But if I ever develop those qualities, I'd rather apply them to something other than Wimbledon, something of my own choosing. Hit harder, my father yells. Hit harder. Now backhands. Backhands. My arm feels like it's going to fall off. I want to ask, how much longer, Pops? But I don't ask. I do as I'm told. I hit as hard as I can, then slightly harder. On one swing, I surprise myself by how hard I hit, how cleanly. Though I hate tennis, I like the feeling of hitting a ball dead perfect. It's the only piece. When I do something perfect, I enjoy a split second of sanity and calm. The dragon responds to perfection, however, by firing the next ball faster. Short back swing, my father says. Short back. That's it. Brush the ball. Brush the ball. At the dinner table, my father will sometimes demonstrate. Drop your racket under the ball, he says, and brush, brush. He makes a motion like a painter, gently wafting a brush. This might be the only thing I've ever seen my father do gently. Work your volleys, he yells, or tries to. An Armenian born in Iran, my father speaks 5 languages, none of them well, and his English is heavily accented. He mixes his V's and W's, so it sounds like this. Work your volleys. Of all his instructions, this is his favorite. He yells this until I hear it in my dreams. Work your volleys. Work your volleys. I've worked so many wallies that I can no longer see the court. Not one patch of green cement is visible beneath the yellow balls. I sidestep, shuffling like an old man. Finally, even my father has to admit there are too many balls. It's counterproductive. If I can't move, we won't make our daily quota of 2,500. He revs up the blower, the giant machine for drying the court after it rains. Of course, it never rains where we live. Las Vegas, Nevada, so my father uses the blower to corral tennis balls. balls. Just as he did with the ball machine, my father has modified a standard blower, made it into another demonic creature. It's one of my earliest memories, 5 years old, getting pulled out of kindergarten, going with my father to the welding shop and watching him build this insane lawnmower-like machine that can move hundreds of tennis balls at once. Now I watch him push the blower, watch the tennis balls scurry from him, and feel sympathy for the balls. If the dragon and the blower are living things, maybe the balls are too. Maybe they're doing what I would if I could, running from my father. After blowing all the balls into one corner, my father takes a snow shovel and scoops the balls into a row of metal garbage cans, slop buckets with which he feeds the dragon. He turns, sees me watching. "What the hell are you looking at? Keep hitting! Keep hitting!" My shoulder aches. I can't hit another ball. I hit another 3. I can't go on another minute. I go another 10. I get an idea. Accidentally on purpose, I hit a ball high over the fence. I manage to catch it on the wooden rim of my racket, so it sounds like a misfire. I do this when I need a break, and it crosses my mind that I must be pretty good if I can hit a ball wrong at will. My father hears the ball hit wood and looks up. He sees the ball leave the court. He curses. But he heard the ball hit wood, so he knows it was an accident. Besides, at least I didn't hit the net. He stomps out of the yard, out to the desert. I now have 4 or 5 minutes to catch my breath and watch the hawks circling lazily overhead. My father likes to shoot the hawks with his rifle. Our house is blanketed with his victims, dead birds that cover the roof as thickly as tennis balls cover the court. My father says he doesn't like hawks because they swoop down on mice and other defenseless desert creatures. He can't stand the thought of something strong preying on something weak. This also holds true when he goes fishing. Whatever he catches, he kisses its scaly head and throws it back. Of course, he has no qualms about preying on me, no trouble watching me gasp for air on his hook. He doesn't see the contradiction. He doesn't care about contradictions. He doesn't realize that I'm the most defenseless creature in this godforsaken desert. If he did realize, I wonder, would he treat me differently? Now he stomps back onto the court, slams the ball into a garbage can, and sees me staring at the hawks. He glares. "What the fuck are you doing? Stop thinking. No fucking thinking." The net is the biggest enemy, but thinking is the cardinal sin. Thinking, my father believes, is the source of all bad things, because thinking is the opposite of doing. When my father catches me thinking, daydreaming on the tennis court, he reacts as if he caught me taking money from his wallet. I often think about how I can stop thinking. I wonder if my father yells at me to stop thinking because he knows I'm a thinker by nature. Or, with all his yelling, has he turned me into a thinker? Is my thinking about things other than tennis an act of defiance? I like to think so. Our house is an overgrown shack, built in the 1970s, white stucco with peeling dark trim around its edges. The windows have bars. The roof, under all the dead hawks, has wood shingles, many of which are loose or missing. The door has a cowbell that rings every time someone comes or goes, like the opening bell of a boxing match. My father has painted the high cement wall around the house a bright forest green. Why? Because green is the color of a tennis court. Also, my father likes the convenience of directing someone to the house like this. "Turn left, go down half a block, then look for the bright green wall." Not that we ever have any visitors. Surrounding the house on all sides is desert, and more desert, which to me is another word for death. Dotted with sticker bushes, tumbleweed, and coiled rattlers, the desert around our house seems to have no reason for existence other than providing a place for people to dump things they no longer want. Mattresses, tires, other people. Vegas, the casinos, the hotels, the strip stands off in the distance, a glittering illusion. My father commutes to the illusion every day. He's a captain at one of the casinos, but he refuses to live closer. We moved out here to the middle of nowhere, the heart of nothingness, because it's only here that my father could afford a house with a yard big enough for his ideal tennis court. It's another early memory, driving around Vegas with my father and the real estate agent. It would have been funny if it hadn't been scary. At house after house, even before the agent's car came to a full stop, my father would jump out and march up the front walk. The agent, close on my father's heels, would be yakking about local schools, crime rates, interest rates, but my father wouldn't be listening. Staring straight ahead, my father would storm into the house, through the living room, through the kitchen, into the backyard, where he'd whip out his tape measure and count off 36 feet by 78 feet, the dimensions of a tennis court. Time after time, he'd yell, "Doesn't fit! Come on, let's go!" My father would then march back through the kitchen, through the living room, down the front walk, the real estate agent struggling to keep pace. We saw one house my older sister Tammy desperately wanted. She begged my father to buy it because it was shaped like a T, and T stood for Tammy. My father almost bought it, probably because T also stood for tennis. I liked the house. So did my mother. The backyard, however, was inches too short. "Doesn't fit. Let's go." Finally, we saw this house, its backyard so big that my father didn't need to measure. He just stood in the middle of the yard, turning slowly, gazing, grinning, seeing the future. "Sold," he said quietly. We hadn't carried in the last cardboard box before my father began to build his dream court. I still don't know how he did it. He never worked a day in construction. He knew nothing about concrete, asphalt, water drainage. He read no books, consulted no experts. He just got a picture in his head and set about making that picture a reality. As with so many things, he willed the court into being through sheer orneriness and energy. I think he might be doing something similar with me. He needed help, of course. Pouring concrete is a big job, so each morning he'd drive me to Sambo's, a diner on the Strip where we'd recruit a few old-timers from the gang that hung out in the parking lot. My favorite was Rudy. Battle-scarred, barrel-chested, Rudy always looked at me with a half-smile, as if he understood that I didn't know who or where I was. Rudy and his gang would follow me and my father back to our house, and there my father would tell them what needed doing. After 3 hours, my father and I would run down to McDonald's and buy huge sacks of Big Macs and French fries. When we returned, my father would let me ring the cowbell and call the men to lunch. I loved rewarding Rudy. I loved watching him eat like a wolf. I loved the concept of hard work leading to sweet rewards, except when hard work meant hitting tennis balls. The days of Rudy and the Big Macs passed in a blur. Suddenly my father had his backyard tennis court, which meant I had my prison. I had helped feed the chain gang that built my cell. I had helped measure and paint the white lines that would confine me. Why did I do it? I had no choice. The reason I do everything. No one ever asked me if I wanted to play tennis, let alone make it my life. In fact, my mother thought I was born to be a preacher. She tells me, however, that my father decided long before I was born that I would be a professional tennis player. When I was 1 year old, she adds, I proved my father right. Watching a ping pong game, I moved only my eyes, never my head. My father called to my mother. "Look," he said, "see how he moves only his eyes? A natural." She tells me that when I was still in the crib, my father hung a mobile of tennis balls above my head and encouraged me to slap at them with a ping pong paddle he taped to my hand. When I was 3, he gave me a sawed-off racket and told me to hit whatever I wanted. I specialized in salt shakers. I liked serving them through glass windows. I aced the dog. My father never got mad. He got mad about many things, but never about hitting something hard with a racket. When I was 4, he had me hitting with tennis greats who passed through town, beginning with Jimmy Connors. My father told me that Connors was one of the finest to ever play. I was more impressed that Connors had a bowl haircut just like mine. When we finished hitting, Connors told my father that I was sure to become very good. "I already knew that," my father said, annoyed. "Very good? He's going to be number 1 in the world." He wasn't seeking Connor's confirmation. He was seeking someone who could give me a game. Whenever Connors comes to Vegas, my father strings his rackets. My father is a master stringer. Who better than my old man to create and maintain tension? It's always the same drill. In the morning, Connors gives my father a box of rackets, and 8 hours later, my father and I meet Connors at a restaurant on the Strip. My father sends me in, cradling the restrung rackets. I ask the manager if he can point me to Mr. Connors' table. The manager sends me to a far corner where Connors sits with his entourage. Connors is at the center, back to the wall. I hold his rackets toward him, carefully, not saying a word. The conversation at the table comes to a halt, and everyone looks down at me. Connors takes the rackets roughly and sets them on a chair. For a moment I feel important, as though I've delivered freshly sharpened swords to one of the three musketeers. Then Connors tousles my hair, says something sarcastic about me or my father, and everyone at the table guffaws. The better I get at tennis, the worse I get at school, which pains me. I like books, but feel overmatched by them. I like my teachers, but don't understand much of what they say. I don't seem to learn or process facts the way other kids do. I have a steel-trap memory, but trouble concentrating. I need things explained twice, 3 times. Maybe that's why my father yells everything twice. Also, I know that my father resents every moment I spend in school. It comes at the cost of court time. Disliking school, therefore, doing poorly in school, feels like loyalty to Pops. Some days when he's driving me and my siblings to school, my father will smile and say, "I'll make you guys a deal. Instead of taking you to school, how about I take you to Cambridge Racquet Club? You can hit balls all morning. How does that sound?" We know what he wants us to say, so we say it. "Hooray!" "Just don't tell your mother," my father says. Cambridge Racquet Club is a long, low-roofed dump just east of the Strip with 10 hard courts and a seedy smell, dust, sweat, liniment, plus something sour, something just past its expiration date that I can never quite identify. My father treats Cambridge like an addition to our house. He stands with the owner, Mr. Fong, and they watch us closely, making sure we play, that we don't waste our time talking or laughing. Eventually my father lets out a short whistle, a sound I'd know anywhere. He puts his fingers in his mouth, gives one hard blast, and that means game, set, match, stop hitting, and get in the car now. My siblings always stop before I do. Rita, the oldest, Philly, my older brother, and Tammy. They all play tennis well. We're like the Von Trapps of tennis. But me, the youngest, the baby, I'm the best. My father tells me so, tells my siblings, tells Mr. Fong. Andre is the chosen one. That's why my father gives me most of his attention. I'm the last best hope of the Agassi clan. Sometimes I like the extra attention from my father. Sometimes I'd rather be invisible, because my father can be scary. My father does things. For instance, he often reaches a thumb and forefinger inside his nostril and, bracing himself for the eye-watering pain, pulls out a thick bouquet of black nose hairs. This is how he grooms himself. In the same spirit, he shaves his face without soap or cream. He simply runs a disposable razor up and down his dry cheeks and jaw, shredding his skin, then letting the blood trickle down his face until it dries. When stressed, when distracted, my father often stares off into space and mumbles, "I love you, Margaret." I asked my mother one day, "Who's Pop's talking to? Who's Margaret?" My mother says that when my father was my age, he was skating on a pond and the ice cracked. He fell through and drowned, stopped breathing for a long time. He was pulled from the water and revived by a woman named Margaret. He'd never seen her before and never saw her again, but every so often he sees her in his mind and speaks to her and thanks her in his most tender voice. He says this vision of Margaret comes upon him like a seizure. He has no knowledge while it's happening and only a dim memory afterward. Violent by nature, my father is forever preparing for battle. He shadow boxes constantly. He keeps an axe handle in his car. He leaves the house with a handful of salt and pepper in each pocket in case he's in a street fight and needs to blind someone. Of course, some of his most vicious battles are with himself. He has chronic stiffness in his neck, and he's perpetually loosening the neck bones by angrily twisting and yanking his head. When this doesn't work, he shakes himself like a dog, whipping his head from side to side until the neck makes a sound like popcorn popping. When even this doesn't work, he resorts to the heavy punching bag that hangs from a harness outside our house. My father stands on a chair, removes the punching bag, and places his neck in the harness. He then kicks away the chair and drops a foot through the air, his momentum abruptly halted by the harness. The first time I saw him do this, I was walking through the rooms of the house. I looked up, and there was my father kicking the chair, hanging by his neck, his shoes 3 feet off the ground. I had no doubt he'd killed himself. I ran to him, hysterical. Seeing the stricken look on my face, he barked, "What the fuck is the matter with you?" Most of his battles, however, are against others, and they typically begin without warning, at the most unexpected times. In his sleep, for instance, he boxes in his dreams and frequently hauls off and punches my dozing mother. In the car, too, my father enjoys few things more than driving his green diesel Oldsmobile, singing along to his 8-track of Laura Branigan. But if another driver crosses him, if another driver cuts him off or objects to being cut off by my father, everything goes dark. I'm driving with my father one day, going to Cambridge, and he gets into a shouting match with another driver. My father stops his car, steps out, orders the man out of his. Because my father is wielding his axe handle, the man refuses. My father whips the axe handle into the man's headlights and taillights, sending sprays of glass everywhere. Another time, my father reaches across me and points his handgun at another driver. He holds the gun level with my nose. I stare straight ahead. I don't move. I don't know what the other driver has done wrong, only that it's the automobile equivalent of hitting into the net. I feel my father's finger tensing on the trigger. Then I hear the other driver speed away, followed by a sound I rarely hear. My father laughing. He's busting a gut. I tell myself that I'll remember this moment, my father laughing, holding a gun under my nose, if I live to be 100. When he puts the gun back into the glove box and throws the car into drive, my father turns to me. "Don't tell your mother," he says. I can't imagine why he says this. What would my mother do if we told her? She never raises a word of protest. Does my father think there's a first time for everything? On a rare rainy day in Vegas, my father is driving me to pick up my mother at her office. I'm standing on my end of the bench seat, horsing around, singing. My father gets in the left lane to make a turn. A trucker honks at my father. My father apparently forgot to signal. My father gives the trucker the finger. His hand flies up so fast it nearly hits my face. The trucker yells something. My father lets fly a stream of curses. The trucker stops, opens his door. My father stops, jumps out. I crawl into the back seat and watch through the back window. The rain is falling harder. My father approaches the trucker. The trucker throws a punch. My father ducks, deflects the punch with the top of his head, then throws a blazingly fast combination, ending with an uppercut. The trucker is lying on the pavement. He's dead, I'm sure of it. If he's not dead, he soon will be, because he's in the middle of the road and someone will run him over. My father gets back in the car and we peel away. I stay in the back seat, watching the trucker through the back window, rain pelting his unconscious face. I turn to see my father, mumbling, throwing combinations against the steering wheel. Just before we pick up my mother, he looks down at his hands, clenches and unclenches his fist to make sure the knuckles aren't broken. Then he looks in the back seat, directly into my eyes, though it feels as if he's seeing Margaret. Somewhat tenderly, he says, "Don't tell your mother." Some moments and many more come to mind whenever I think about telling my father that I don't want to play tennis. Besides loving my father and wanting to please him, I don't want to upset him. I don't dare. Bad stuff happens when my father is upset. If he says I'm going to play tennis, if he says I'm going to be number one in the world, that it's my destiny, all I can do is nod and obey. I would advise Jimmy Connors or anyone else to do the same. The road to number one goes over Hoover Dam. When I'm almost 8 years old, my father says the time has come to move from backyard sessions with the Dragon and hit-arounds at Cambridge to actual tournaments against real live little boys all over Nevada and Arizona and California. Every weekend, the whole family piles into the car and drives, either north on US 95 toward Reno or south through Henderson and over Hoover Dam across the desert to Phoenix or Scottsdale or Tucson. The last place I want to be, other than a tennis court, is in a car with my father. But it's all settled. I'm condemned to divide my childhood between those two boxes. I win my first 7 tournaments in the 10 and under bracket. My father has no reaction. I'm simply doing what I'm supposed to do. Driving back over Hoover Dam, I stare at all the water bottled up behind the massive wall. I look at the inscription on the base of the flagpole, in honor of those men who, inspired by a vision of lonely lands made fruitful. I turn this phrase over in my mind. Lonely lands. Is there a land lonelier than our house in the desert? I think about the rage bottled up in my father, like the Colorado River inside the Hoover Dam. Only a matter of time before it bursts. Nothing to do but scramble for high ground. For me, that means winning. Always winning. We go to San Diego, Morley Field. I play a kid named Jeff Tarango, who isn't nearly on my level. But he wins the first set, 6-4. I'm stunned, scared. My father's going to kill me. I bear down, win the second set, 6-0. Early in the third set, Tarango twists his ankle. I start drop-shotting him, trying to make him run on the bad ankle. But he's only faking. His ankle is fine. He comes bounding in and smashes my drop shots and wins every point. My father screams from the stands, "No more drop shots! No more drop shots!" But I can't help myself. I have a strategy. I'm sticking with it. We go to a tie break. It's best of 9. Back and forth we trade points until it's 4-all. Here it is, sudden death, 1 point for the whole match. I've never lost, and I can't imagine what my father's reaction will be if I do. I play as if my life hangs in the balance, which it does. Tarango must have a father like mine, because he's playing the same way. I haul off and rope a fizzling backhand cross-court. I hit it as a rally shot, but it comes off my racket bigger and hotter than I intended. It's a screaming winner, 3 feet in, but well beyond Tarango's reach. I howl in triumph. Tarango, standing in the center of the court, bows his head and seems to cry. Slowly he walks toward the net. Now he stops. All of a sudden, he looks back at where the ball hit. He smiles. "Out," he says. I stop. "The ball was out," Tarango yells. This is the rule in juniors. Players act as their own linesmen. Players call balls in or out, and there is no appeal. Tarango has decided he'd rather do this than lose, and he knows there's nothing anyone can do about it. He raises his hands in victory. Now I start to cry. Bedlam breaks out in the stands, parents arguing, shouting, nearly coming to blows. It's not fair, it's not right, but it's reality. Tarango is the winner. I refuse to shake his hand. I run away into Balboa Park. When I return half an hour later, all cried out, my father is furious, not because I disappeared, because I didn't do what he said during the match. "Why didn't you listen to me? Why did you keep hitting drop shots?" For once, I'm not afraid of my father. No matter how angry he is with me, I'm angrier. I'm furious with Tarango, with God, with myself. Even though I feel Tarango cheated me, I shouldn't have put him in a position to cheat me. I shouldn't have let the match get that close. Because I did. Now I'll have a loss on my record. Forever. Nothing can ever change it. I can't endure the thought, but it's inescapable. I'm fallible, blemished, imperfect. 1,000,000 balls hit against the Dragon. For what? After years of hearing my father rant at my flaws, one loss has caused me to take up his rant. I've internalized my father, his impatience, his perfectionism, his rage, until his voice doesn't just feel like my own, it is my own. I no longer need my father to torture me. From this day on, I can do it all by myself. 2. My father's mother lives with us. She's a nasty old lady from Tehran with a wart the size of a walnut on the edge of her nose. Sometimes you can't hear a word she's saying because you can't take your eyes off that wart. But it doesn't matter. She's surely saying the same nasty things she said yesterday and the day before, and probably saying them to my father. This seems to be the reason Grandma was put on earth, to harass my father. He says she nagged him when he was a boy and often beat him. When he was extra bad, she made him wear hand-me-down girl clothes to school. That's why he learned to fight. If she's not pecking at my father, the old lady is squawking about the old country, sighing about the folks she left behind. My mother says Grandma is homesick. The first time I hear this word, I ask myself, how can you be sick about not being home? Home is where the dragon lives. Home is the place where, when you go there, you have to play tennis. If Grandma wants to go back home, I'm all for it. I'm only 8, but I'll drive her to the airport myself, because she causes more tension in a house that doesn't need one bit more. She makes my father miserable. She bosses me and my siblings around, and she engages in strange competition with my mother. My mother tells me that when I was a baby, she walked into the kitchen and found Grandma breastfeeding me. Things have been awkward between the two women ever since. Of course, there is one good thing about Grandma living with us. She tells stories about my father, about his childhood, and this sometimes gets my father reminiscing, causes him to open up. If not for Grandma, we wouldn't know much about my father's past, which was sad and lonely and helps explain his odd behavior and boiling rage. Sort of. Oh, Grandma says with a sigh, we were poor. You can't imagine how poor. And hungry, she says, rubbing her belly. We had no food, also no running water, no electricity, and not a stick of furniture. Where did you sleep? We slept on the dirt floor, all of us in one tiny room, in an old apartment house built around filthy courtyard. In one corner of the courtyard was a hole. That was the toilet for all the tenants. My father chimes in. Things got better after the war, he says. Overnight, the streets were filled with British and American soldiers. I liked them. Why did you like the soldiers? They gave me candy and shoes. They also gave him English. The first word my father learned from the GIs was victory. That's all they talked about, he says. Victory. Whoa, were they big, he adds, and strong. I followed them everywhere, watching them, studying them, and one day I followed them to the place where they spent all their free time, a park in the woods with 2 clay tennis courts. There were no fences around the courts, so the ball would go bouncing away every few seconds. My father would run after the ball and bring it back to the soldiers, like a puppy dog, until finally they made him their unofficial ball boy. Then they made him the official court custodian. My father says, every day I swept and watered and combed the courts with a heavy roller. I painted the lines white. What a job that was. I had to use chalk water. How much did they pay you? Pay? Nothing. They gave me a tennis racket. It was a piece of junk, an old wooden thing strung with steel wire. But I loved it. I spent hours with that racket, hitting a tennis ball against a brick wall, alone. Why alone? No one else in Iran played tennis. The only sport that could offer my father a steady supply of opponents was boxing. His toughness was tested first in one street fight after another, and then as a teenager he strode into a gym and set to work learning formal boxing techniques. A natural, the trainers called him quick with his hands, light on his feet, and he had a grudge against the world. His rage, so hard for us to deal with, was an asset in the squared circle. He won a spot on the Iranian Olympic team, boxing in the bantamweight division, and went to the 1948 games in London. 4 years later, he went to the games in Helsinki. He didn't do well at either. The judges, he grumbled. They were crooked. The whole thing was fixed, rigged. The world was very biased against Iran. But my son, he adds, maybe they will make tennis an Olympic sport once again, and my son will win a gold medal, and that will make up for it. A little extra pressure to go with my everyday pressure. After seeing a bit of the world, after being an Olympian, my father couldn't return to that same single room with the dirt floor, so he snuck out of Iran. He doctored his passport and booked a flight under an assumed name to New York City, where he spent 16 days on Ellis Island, then took a bus to Chicago, where he Americanized his name. Emmanuel became Mike Agassi. By day, he worked as an elevator operator at one of the city's grand hotels. By night, he boxed. His coach in Chicago was Tony Zale, the fearless middleweight champ, often called the Man of Steel. Famous for his part in one of the sport's bloodiest rivalries, a three-bout saga with Rocky Graziano, Hale lauded my father, told him he had tons of raw talent, but pleaded with him to hit harder. "Hit harder," Zale would scream at my father as he peppered the speed bag. "Hit harder. Every punch you throw it from the floor up." With Zale in his corner, my father won the Chicago Golden Gloves, then earned a primetime flight at Madison Square Garden, his big break. But on fight night, my father's opponent fell ill. The promoters scrambled, trying to find a substitute. They found one all right, a much better boxer and a welterweight. My father agreed to the fight, but moments before the opening bell, he got the shakes. He ducked into a bathroom, crawled out the window above the toilet, then took the train back to Chicago. Sneaking out of Iran, sneaking out of the garden, my father is an escape artist, I think, but there's no escaping him. My father says that when he boxed, he always wanted to take a guy's best punch. He tells me one day on the tennis court, when you know that you just took the other guy's best punch and you're still standing and the other guy knows it, you will rip the heart right out of him. In tennis, he says, same rule. Attack the other man's strength. If the man is a server, take away his serve. If he's a power player, overpower him. If he has a big forehand, takes pride in his forehand, go after his forehand until he hates his forehand. My father has a special name for this contrarian strategy. He calls it putting a blister on the other guy's brain. With this strategy, this brutal philosophy, he stamps me for life. He turns me into a boxer with a tennis racket. More, since most tennis players pride themselves on their serve, my father turns me into a counterpuncher, a returner. Every once in a while, my father gets homesick too. He especially misses his oldest brother, Izar. Someday, he vows, your uncle Izar will sneak out of Iran like I did. But first, Izar needs to sneak out his money. Iran is falling apart, my father explains. Revolution is brewing. The government is teetering. That's why they're watching everyone, making sure people don't drain their bank accounts and flee. Uncle Izar, therefore, is slowly, secretly converting his cash to jewels, which he then hides in packages he sends us in Vegas. It feels like Christmas every time a brown-wrapped box from Uncle Izar arrives. We sit on the living room floor and cut the string and tear the paper and shriek when we find, hidden under a tin of cookies or inside a fruitcake, diamonds and emeralds and rubies. Uncle Izar's packages arrive every few weeks, and then one day comes a much larger package. Uncle Izar, himself, on the doorstep, smiling down. "You must be Andre." "Yes, I'm your uncle." He reaches out and touches my cheek. He's the mirror image of my father, but his personality is the exact opposite. My father is shrill and stern and filled with rage. Uncle Izar is soft-spoken and patient and funny. He's also a genius. He was an engineer back in Iran, so he helps me every night with my homework. Such a relief from my father's tutoring sessions. My father's way of teaching is to tell you once, then tell you a second time, then shout at you and call you an idiot for not getting it the first time. Uncle Izar tells you, then smiles and waits. If you don't understand, no problem. He tells you again, more softly. He has all the time in the world. I stare at Uncle Izar as he strolls through the rooms and hallways of our house. I follow him the way my father followed the British and American soldiers. As I grow familiar with Uncle Izar, as I get to know him better, I like to hang from his shoulders and swing from his arms. He likes it too. He likes to roughhouse, to be tackled and tickled by his nephews and nieces. Every night I hide behind the front door and jump out when Uncle Izar comes home, because it makes him laugh. His booming laughter is the opposite of the sounds that come from the dragon. One day, Uncle Izar goes to the store for a few things. I count the minutes. At last, the front gate clanks open, then clanks shut, meaning I knew exactly 12 seconds until Uncle Izar walks through the front door. It always takes people 12 seconds to go from the gate to the door. I crouch, count to 12, and as the door opens, I leap out. Boo! It's not Uncle Izar. It's my father. Startled, he yells, steps back, then shoots out his fist. Even though he only puts a fraction of his weight into it, my father's left hook hits my jaw flush and sends me flying. 1 second, I'm excited, joyful. The next, I'm sprawled on the ground. My father stands over me, scowling. "What the fuck is the matter with you? Go to your room." I run to my room and throw myself on the bed. I lie there shaking. I don't know how long. An hour? 3? Eventually the door opens and I hear my father. "Grab your racket. Get on the court." Time to face the dragon. I hit for half an hour, my head throbbing, my eyes tearing. "Hit harder," my father says. "God damn it, hit harder. Not in the fucking net." I turn and face my father. The next ball from the dragon I hit as hard as I can, but high over the fence. I aim for the hawks, and I don't bother pretending it's an accident. My father stares. He takes one menacing step toward me. He's going to hit me over the fence. But then he stops, calls me a bad name, and warns me to stay out of his sight. I run into the house and find my mother lying on her bed, reading a romance novel, her dogs at her feet. She loves animals, and our house is like Dr. Doolittle's waiting room. Dogs, birds, cats, lizard, and one mangy rat named Lady Butt. I grab one of the dogs and hurl it across the room, ignoring its insulted yelp, and bury my head in my mother's arm. "Why is Pop so mean? What happened?" I tell her. She strokes my hair and says my father doesn't know any better. "Pa has his own ways," she says. "Strange ways. We have to remember that Pa wants what's best for us, right?" Part of me feels grateful for my mother's endless calm. Part of me, however, a part I don't like to acknowledge, feels betrayed by it. Calm sometimes means weak. She never steps in. She never fights back. She never throws herself between us kids and my father. She should tell him to back off, ease up, that tennis isn't life. But it's not in her nature. My father disturbs the peace. My mother keeps it. Every morning she goes to the office. She works for the state of Nevada in her sensible pantsuit, and every night she comes home at 6, bone-tired, not uttering one word of complaint. With her last speck of energy, she cooks dinner. Then she lies down with her pets and a book, or her favorite, a jigsaw puzzle. Only every great once in a while does she lose her temper, and when she does, it's epic. One time my father made a remark about the house being unclean. My mother walked to the cupboard, took out 2 boxes of cereal, and waved them around her head like flags, spraying cornflakes and Cheerios everywhere. She yelled, "You want the house clean? Clean it yourself!" Moments later, she was calmly working on a jigsaw puzzle. She particularly loves Norman Rockwell puzzles. There is always some half-assembled scene of idyllic family life spread across the kitchen table. I can't imagine the pleasure my mother takes in jigsaw puzzles. All that fractured disorder, all that chaos, how can that be relaxing? It makes me think my mother and I are complete opposites. And yet, anything soft in me, any love or compassion I have for people, must come from her. Lying against her, letting her continue to stroke my hair, I think there is so much about her that I can't understand, and it all seems to flow from her choice of a husband. I ask how she ever ended up with a guy like my father in the first place. She gives a short, weary laugh. "It was a long time ago," she says. "Back in Chicago. A friend of a friend told your father, 'You should meet Betty Dudley. She's just your type,' and vice versa. So your father phoned me one night at the girls' club where I was renting a furnished room. We talked a long, long time, and your father seemed sweet." "Sweet?" I know, but he did. So I agreed to meet him. He showed up the next day in a spiffy new Volkswagen. He drove me around town, no place in particular, just round and round, telling me his story. Then we stopped to get something to eat, and I told him my story. My mother told my father about growing up in Danville, Illinois, 170 miles from Chicago, the same small town where Gene Hackman and Donald O'Connor and Dick Van Dyke grew up. She told him about being a twin. She told him about her father, a crotchety English teacher, a stickler for proper English. My father, with his broken English, must have cringed. More likely he didn't hear. I imagine my father not capable of listening to my mother on their first date. He would have been too mesmerized by her flaming auburn hair and bright blue eyes. I've seen pictures. My mother was a rare beauty. I wonder if he liked her hair best because it was the color of a clay tennis court. Or was it her height? She's several inches taller than he. I can imagine him perceiving that as a challenge. My mother says it took 8 blissful weeks for my father to convince her that they should combine their stories. They ran away from her crotchety father and her twin sister and eloped. Then they kept running. My father drove my mother clear out to Los Angeles, and when they had trouble finding jobs there, he drove her across the desert to a new gambling boom town. My mother landed her job with the state government, and my father caught on at the Tropicana Hotel, giving tennis lessons. It didn't pay much, so he got a second job waiting tables at the Landmark Hotel. Then he got a job as a captain at the MGM Grand Casino, which kept him so busy he dropped the other 2 jobs. Over the first 10 years of marriage, my parents had 3 kids. Then, in 1969, my mother went to the hospital with ominous stomach pains. "Need to do a hysterectomy," the doctor said, but a second round of tests showed she was pregnant with me. I was born April 29th, 1970, at Sunrise Hospital, 2 miles from the Strip. My father named me Andre Kirk Agassi, after his bosses at the casino. I asked my mother why my father named me after his bosses. Were they friends? Did he admire them? Did he owe them money? She doesn't know, and it's not the kind of question you can ask my father directly. You can't ask my father anything directly, so I file it away with all the other things I don't know about my parents. Permanently missing pieces in the jigsaw puzzle that is me. My father works hard, puts in long hours on the night shift at the casino, but tennis is his life, his reason for getting out of bed. No matter where you sit in the house, you see scattered evidence of his obsession. Aside from the backyard court and the dragon, there is my father's laboratory, also known as the kitchen. My father's stringing machine and tools take up half the kitchen table. My mother's latest Norman Rockwell takes up the other half, 2 obsessions vying for one busy room. On the kitchen counter stand several stacks of rackets, many sawed in half so my father can study their guts. He wants to know everything about tennis, everything, which means dissecting its various parts. He's forever conducting experiments on this or that piece of equipment. Lately, for instance, he's been using old tennis balls to extend the lives of our shoes. When the rubber starts to wear down, my father cuts a tennis ball in half and puts 1/2 on each toe. I tell Philly, it's not bad enough that we live in a tennis laboratory. Now we have to wear tennis balls on our feet? I wonder why my father loves tennis. Yet another question I can't ask him directly. Still, he drops clues. He talks sometimes about the beauty of the game, its perfect balance of power and strategy. Despite his imperfect life, or maybe because of it, my father craves perfection. Geometry and mathematics are as close to perfection as human beings can get, he says, and tennis is all about angles and numbers. My father lies in bed and sees a court on the ceiling. He says he can actually see it there, and on that ceiling court he plays countless imaginary matches. It's a wonder he has any energy when he goes to work. As a casino captain, it's my father's job to seat people at the shows. Right this way, Mr. Johnson. Nice to see you again, Miss Jones. The MGM pays him a small salary. The rest he earns in tips. We live on tips, which makes life unpredictable. Some nights my father comes home with his pockets bulging with cash. Other nights his pockets are perfectly flat. Whatever he pulls from his pockets, no matter how little, gets carefully counted and stacked, and then stashed in the family safe. It's nerve-wracking, never knowing how much Pops is going to be able to tuck in the safe. My father loves money, makes no apologies for loving it, and he says there's good money to be made in tennis. Clearly, this is one big part of his love for tennis. It's the shortest route he can see to the American dream. He takes me to the Alan King Tennis Classic, and we watch a beautiful woman dressed as Cleopatra being carried onto center court by 4 half-naked musclemen in togas, followed by a man dressed as Caesar pushing a wheelbarrow full of silver dollars. First prize for the winner of the tournament. My father stares at that silvery haze sparkling in the Vegas sun and looks drunk. He wants that. He wants me to have that. Soon after that fateful day, when I'm almost 9 years old, he finagles me a job as a ball boy for the Alan King tournament. But I don't give a damn about silver dollars. I want a mini Cleopatra. Her name is Wendy. She's one of the ball girls, about my age, a vision in her blue uniform. I love her instantly, with all my heart and part of my spleen. I lie awake at night, picturing her on the ceiling. During matches, as Wendy and I dart past each other along the net, I shoot her a smile, try to get her to give me a smile in return. Between matches, I buy her Cokes and sit with her, trying to impress her with my knowledge of tennis. The Alan King tournament attracts big-time players, and my father cajoles most of them into hitting a few balls with me. Some are more willing than others. Borg acts as if there is nowhere else he'd rather be. Connors clearly wants to say no, but can't, because my father is his stringer. Ili Nastasi tries to say no, but my father pretends to be deaf. A champion of the U.S. Open and the French Open, ranked number 1 in the world, Nastasi has other places he'd rather be, but he quickly discovers that refusing my father is next to impossible. The man is relentless. As Nastasi and I hit, Wendy watches from the net post. I'm nervous. Nastasi is visibly bored until he spots Wendy. "Hey," he says, "is this your girlfriend, Snoopy? Is this pretty thing over here your sweetheart?" I stop. I glare at Nastasi. I want to punch this big, stupid Romanian in the nose, even though he's got 2 feet and 100 pounds on me. Bad enough that he calls me Snoopy, but then he dares to mention Wendy in such a disrespectful way. A crowd has gathered, 200 people at least. Nastasi begins playing to the crowd, calling me Snoopy again and again, teasing me about Wendy, and I thought my father was relentless. At the very least, I wish I had the courage to say, "Mr. Nastasi, you're embarrassing me, please stop." But all I can do is keep hitting harder. Hit harder! Then Nastasi makes yet another wisecrack about Wendy, and that's it. I can't take any more. I drop my racket and walk off the court. Up yours, Nastasi. My father stares, open mouth. He's not angry. He's not embarrassed. He's incapable of embarrassment, and he recognizes his own genes when he sees them in action. I don't know that I've ever seen him prouder. Besides the occasional exhibition with a top-ranked player, my public matches are mostly hustle jobs. I have a slick routine to lure in the suckers. First, I pick a highly visible court where I play by myself, knocking the ball all over the place. Second, when some cocky teenager or drunken guest scrolls by, I invite them to play. Third, I let them beat me soundly. Finally, in my most pitiful voice, I ask if they'd like to play for $1, maybe $5. Before they know what's happening, I'm serving for match point and $20, enough to keep Wendy in Cokes for a month. Philly taught me how to do it. He gives tennis lessons and often hustles his students, plays them for the price of the lesson, then double or nothing. But Andre, he says, with your size and youth, you could be raking in the dough. He helps me develop and rehearse the routine. Now and then it occurs to me that I only think I'm hustling, that people are happy to shell out for the show. Later, they can brag to their friends that they saw a 9-year-old tennis freak who never misses. I don't tell my father about my side business. Not that he'd think it was wrong. He loves a good hustle. I just don't feel like talking to my father about tennis any more than is absolutely necessary. Then my father stumbles into his own hustle. It happens at Cambridge. As we walk in one day, my father points to a man talking with Mr. Fong. "That's Jim Brown," my father whispers to me, "greatest football player of all time." He's an enormous block of muscle wearing tennis whites and tube socks. I've seen him before at Cambridge. He's not playing tennis for money. He's playing backgammon or shooting craps, also for money. Like my father, Mr. Brown talks a lot about money. At this moment, he's complaining to Mr. Fong about a money match that fell through. He was supposed to play a guy, and the guy didn't show. Mr. Brown is taking it out on Mr. Fong. "I came to play," Mr. Brown is saying, "and I want to play." My father steps forward. "You looking for a game?" "Yeah." "My son Andre will play you." Mr. Brown looks at me, then back at my father. "I ain't playing no 8-year-old boy." "9. 9? Ooh, well, I didn't realize." Mr. Brown laughs. A few men within earshot laugh too. I can tell that Mr. Brown doesn't take my father seriously. Big mistake. Just ask that trucker lying in the road. I close my eyes and see him, the rain pelting his face. "Look," Mr. Brown says, "I don't play for fun, okay? I play for money." "My son will play you for money." I feel a bead of sweat start down my armpit. "Yeah? How much?" My father laughs and says, "I'll bet you my fucking house." "I don't need your house," Mr. Brown says. "I got a house. Let's say 10 grand. "Done," my father says. I walk toward the court. "Slow down," Mr. Brown says. "I need to see some money up front." "I'll go home and get it," my father says. "I'll be right back." My father hurries out the door. I sit in a chair and picture him opening the safe and pulling out stacks of money. All those tips I've seen him count through the years, all those nights of hard work. Now he's going to let it ride on me. I feel a heaviness in the center of my chest. I'm proud, of course, to think my father has such faith in me, but mainly I'm scared. What happens to me, to my father, to my mother, and my siblings, not to mention Grandma and Uncle Esau, if I lose? I've played under this kind of pressure before, when my father, without warning, has chosen an opponent and ordered me to beat him. But it's always been another kid, and there's never been money involved. It usually happens in the middle of the afternoon. My father will wake me from a nap and yell, "Grab your racket! There's someone here you need to beat!" It never occurs to him that I'm taking a nap because I'm exhausted from a morning playing the dragon, that 9-year-olds don't often take naps. Rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I'll go outside and see some strange kid, some prodigy from Florida or California who happens to be in town. They're always older and bigger, like that punk who just moved to Vegas and heard about me and rang our doorbell. He had a white rossignol and a head like a pumpkin. He was at least 3 years older than I, and he smirked as I walked out of the house because I was so small. Even after I beat him, even after I wiped that smirk off his face, it took hours for me to calm down, to shed the feeling that I'd just run along a tightrope stretch across Hoover Dam. This thing with Mr. Brown, however, is different, and not just because my family's life savings are riding on the outcome. Mr. Brown disrespected my father, and my father can't knock him out. He needs me to do it, so this match will be about more than money. It will be about respect and manhood and honor against the greatest football player of all time. I'd rather play in the final of Wimbledon against Nastasi with Wendy as the ball girl. Slowly, I become aware that Mr. Brown is watching me, staring. He walks over and introduces himself, shakes my hand. His hand is one big callus. He asks how long I've been playing, how many matches I've won, how many I've lost. I never lose, I say quietly. His eyes narrow. Mr. Fong pulls Mr. Brown aside and says, "Don't do this, Jim." "Guy's asking for it," Mr. Brown whispers, "fooling his money." "You don't understand," Mr. Fong says. "You are going to lose, Jim." "How the hell are you—" "He's a kid." "That's not just any kid." "You must be crazy. Look, Jim, I like having you come here. You're a friend, and it's good for business to have you at my club. But when you lose 10 grand to this kid, you'll be sore, and you might stop coming around." Mr. Brown turns to look me up and down, as if he must have missed something the first time. He walks back toward me and starts firing questions. "How much do you play?" "Every day." "No, how long do you play at one time? An hour? Couple of hours?" I see what he's doing. He wants to know how fast I get tired. He's trying to size me up, game planning for me. My father's back. He's got a fistful of hundreds. He waves them in the air. Suddenly Mr. Brown has had a change of heart. "Here's what we'll do," Mr. Brown tells my father. "We'll play 2 sets, then decide how much to bet on the third." "Whatever you say." We play on court 7, just inside the door. A crowd has gathered, and they cheer themselves hoarse as I win the first set, 6-3. Mr. Brown shakes his head. He talks to himself. He bangs his racket on the ground. He's not happy, which makes 2 of us. Not only am I thinking, in direct violation of my father's cardinal rule, but my mind is spinning. I feel as though I might have to stop playing at any moment because I need to throw up. Still, I win the second set, 6-3. Now Mr. Brown is furious. He drops to one knee, laces his sneakers. My father approaches him. "So, 10 grand?" "Nah," Mr. Brown says. "Why don't we just bet $500? "Whatever you say." My body relaxes. My mind grows quiet. I want to dance along the baseline, knowing I won't have to play for $10,000. I can swing freely now, without thinking about consequences, without thinking at all. Mr. Brown, meanwhile, is thinking more, playing a less relaxed game. He's suddenly junking, drop-shotting, lofting lobs, angling the ball at the corners, trying to backspin and side-spin, and all sorts of trickery. He's also trying to run me, back and forth, wear me out. But I'm so relieved not to be playing for the entire contents of my father's safe that I can't be worn out, and I can't miss. I beat Mr. Brown 6-2. Sweat running down his face, he pulls a wad from his pocket and counts out 5 crisp hundreds. He hands them to my father, then turns to me. "Great game, son." He shakes my hand. His calluses feel rougher, thanks to me. He asks what my goals are, my dreams. I start to answer, but my father jumps in. "He's going to be number 1 in the world." "I wouldn't bet against him," Mr. Brown says. Not long after beating Mr. Brown, I play a practice match against my father at Caesars. I'm up 5-2 serving for the match. I've never beaten my father, and he looks as if he's about to lose much more than $10,000. Suddenly he walks off the court. "Get your stuff," he says. "Let's go." He won't finish. He'd rather sneak away than lose to his son. Deep down, I know it's the last time we'll ever play. Packing my bag, zipping the cover on my racket, I feel a thrill greater than anything I felt after beating Mr. Brown. This is the sweetest win of my life, and it will be hard to top. I'll take this win over a wheelbarrow full of silver dollars, and Uncle Isar's jewels thrown on top, because this is the win that made my father finally sneak away from me.